Do you like westerns and samurai films? Do you want to shock your enemies with both bullets and blades? Or do you just want to be faster than lightning? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then this is the Cyberpunk 2077 build for you. So sit back, relax, and enjoy your time in Min-Maxer's paradise. For this build, we'll be using a Sandevistan with revolvers, pistols, and katanas. For attributes, we want 20 in body, reflexes, and cool, and 18 in tech, leaving intelligence as our dump stat. For the early game, we'll prioritize maxing cool and body, then we'll max reflexes, as the melee portion of this build comes online around levels 30 to 40, when we get our hands on the better Sandevistans. For body, we want these middle perks for health regen and adrenaline rush. Be sure to pick up Army of 1 by level 30 when we start to lean more into melee combat. And with the Juggernaut perk, we'll increase our damage and movement speed while adrenaline rush is active. So starting combat by using a health item is a great idea after you get this perk. And let's not waste a perk point on the situational unstoppable force. For cool, we'll start by picking up the perks you see on the left to boost our pistols and revolvers. When we max out the focus perks, we unlock focus mode, which activates when we aim using revolvers, pistols, sniper rifles, and precision rifles. As you can see, it creates this green bar, locking our stamina in place, keeping our shots from expending any stamina for up to 2.5 seconds. This allows us to be way more accurate with these weapons, which typically require headshots to deal maximum damage. Focus mode ends early if you stop aiming, and when it does, you lose 40 stamina. Rinse and reload increases our reload speeds when neutralizing enemies. No sweat reduces the stamina cost from focus mode by 50% for each enemy you neutralize while it's active. So, if you neutralize at least 2, you eliminate the stamina cost entirely. Head to head increases focus mode's duration when we neutralize enemies, which we'll do quite quickly with headshots from our high damage pistols and revolvers. And deep breath provides a minor time slow buff when focus mode is active, helping us line up accurate shots. Pulls should be avoided for this build. Enemies don't throw enough grenades in this game to spend a perk point on that alone, and this perk works a lot better in builds where we throw our own grenades and shoot them out of the air to maximize damage. But we won't be using grenades in this build, and you'll see why when we get to Cyberware. And next we'll want to max out the Deadeye perks, unlocking Deadeye mode. This is active when our stamina is above 85%. Pairing well with focus. While Deadeye mode is active, we increase our headshot and weak spot damage and decrease our bullet spread, further improving our weapon's accuracy. California Reaper boosts our stamina with each headshot or weak spot kill. Quick Draw allows us to swap weapons faster. Long Shot eliminates damage reduction due to range. And I'd skip High Noon. It does increase reload speed, but I find the time slow when reloading to be unnecessary. For the capstone, we have Nerves of Tungsten Steel. This guarantees crits for headshots with revolvers, precision rifles, and sniper rifles while Deadeye is active, increasing the damage the further we are away from our target. As for Run and Gun, it's not really that useful of a capstone. Unlike Nerves of Tungsten Steel, it doesn't really synergize with any of the other perks in this tree. Quite the contrary, it rewards us for hip firing with pistols, which works against focus, the foundation of this very perk tree. I'd avoid Run and Gun altogether. For stealth missions, we'll want to pick up the stealth perks you see on the right hand side, starting with Killer Instinct, which increases our stealth damage, followed by Gag Order, which keeps you in stealth in case you don't neutralize an enemy with your first silent shot and need to follow up with another quick shot or two to take them down. For the late game, we'll want to pick up Feline Footwork, Ninjutsu, and Creeping Death, which lead us to Vanishing Act. This will be important for one of the weapons we'll pick up in Phantom Liberty. More on that later in this video. Next up, we'll look at reflex perks. Let's pick up almost all of these mobility perks in the middle tree, making multitasker and muscle memory priorities so that sprinting, sliding, and vaulting doesn't impede our shooting or reloading. Avoid power slide and parkour, they're far too situational. Can't touch this increases mitigation chance while dashing, but this build is tanky enough without it. For blade perks, just pick up everything except for bullet deflect and bullet time. As I mentioned in my last Cyberpunk build video, slicing your enemies down is far more efficient than sending their bullets back at them. And make sure to prioritize Flash and Thunderclap, as it's the best way to close distance between enemies and when switching from our ranged weapons to our katana. For tech, on the left, let's pick up the health item regen perks and put only one perk into Pyromania, as we'll only need it for health item regen, not the explosion buffs, as our second quick access slot will be occupied by optical camo. For our Cyberware perks in the middle, pick up all the ones you see here. Prioritizing Cyborg, which reduces our Cyberware cooldowns when we have all our Cyberware slots filled, as well as Extended Warranty, which increases the duration of all our Cyberware effects, including, of course, our Sandevistan. We'll also select the Built Different perk, which allows us to install a piece of Cyberware we'll go over later in this video. Lucky Day is supposed to increase the crafting materials we get from looting, but I've tested this extensively, and as of patch 2.12, I don't think this perk works. But if you've had a different experience with it, please let me know in the comments below. We only need Chipware Connoisseur equipped when we upgrade our Cyberware at the Ripper Dock. And finally, let's avoid Ambidextrous, as it just adds another Cyberware slot we'll need to fill for Cyborg. And as you'll see in the next chapter of this video, we'll be at our Cyberware capacity without it. For our relic perks, once we start the Phantom Liberty expansion, we'll make sure to pick up Emergency Cloaking and Sentry Protocol, which help us slip from combat to stealth. This is a good thing to do when our Sandevistan runs out and we get overwhelmed. We'll also want the Vulnerability Analytics and Machine Learning perks. Now, because we'll do more damage with headshots thanks to the headshot damage multipliers of our firearms, we'll really only need these perks to boost damage against mechs and bosses. And finally, let's pick up Jailbreak and Spatial Mapping, which increase the efficacy of Mantis Blades, which will be our arm Cyberware for this build. Now I know, we're already using a katana, so this does seem redundant, but I'll go over why this is the best choice when we get to Cyberware. Our OS for this build will be the infamous Militech Apogee Sandevistan. When active, it boosts our headshot damage, crit chance, and crit damage. While active, it also increases its own duration and replenishes stamina when you neutralize an enemy. That stamina regen is a vital way to maintain focus in Deadeye mode. Now, we won't unlock this bad boy until level 40, so until then, rock with the Denalar Sandevistan, upgrading to the Militech Falcon at level 30. Mechatronic Core increases our damage against drones, robots, mechs, and turrets. Oxalotl reduces our Cyberware cooldowns each time we take out an enemy. This can be earned by completing all of Regina's gigs, something I'd prioritize for this build. Otherwise, you can find it at Dogtown airdrops and Ripper Docks. Self-Ice protects us from pesky netrunners. We'll use the basic Hiroshis for two reasons. 1, it only takes up 1 point of our Cyberware capacity, and 2, it's cool attuned, giving us a slight boost to headshot damage. As I mentioned earlier, we'll be using the Mantis Blades for our arm Cyberware. Basically, there are a couple of missions in this game that require you to check your weapons at the door. Fortunately, this doesn't apply to our arm Cyberware. Mantis Blades, while not as good as our katana, do, of course, benefit from all our blade perks, so pick them up if you never want to be unarmed. I went with Electrifying Mantis Blades to fit the electric theme of this build, but they do scale with Intelligence, our dump stat, so if you want to do more damage with them, pick either the standard, thermal, or toxic options, each of which scale with one of the 3 attributes we'll max out. We're a melee build, so we'll want all the armor we can get, and Bionic Joints provide quite a lot. Dense Marrow increases our melee damage. It also ups the stamina cost for our melee attacks, which the Apogee will help offset. Parabellum, cause more armor baby. The Micro Generator is a fun piece of tech that allows our firearms to proc an electric AoE blast, increasing our damage. To do this, we simply need to reload our empty weapon, and the blast will accompany our first shot. The damage increases by the number of bullets reloaded, up to 5, so this pairs quite well with our revolvers. Adrenaline Converter increases our movement speed when entering combat, allowing us to close the distance faster when we want to enter melee. Stabber increases our crit chance with blades, and Kerenzikov allows us to slow time when we aim during a slide, dodge, or dash. It's a decent backup when we need to line up a headshot while our Sandevistan is on cooldown. Blood Pump acts as a healing item, except without the need to wait for an animation. Heal on Kill regens health as we eliminate enemies. Micro Rotors increase our melee attack speed. And let's pick up Reinforced Tendons because the double jump reigns supreme. Pain Editor is always great to have as it reduces all incoming damage. And Cellular Adapter requires the build different perk we mentioned earlier. As you can see, it gives us tons of boosts. The relevant two for this build are the armor and health item regen buffs. And lastly, we'll need optical camo for the Vanishing Act and emergency cloaking perks we discussed earlier. The primary firearm for this build will be Archangel. We received this iconic overture from Carrie after completing the side job, Alike Supreme. It has the standard 200% headshot damage multiplier and 25% armor penetration. It also has a 20% shock chance. On top of that, this weapon's description reads, "Successive hits after short intervals knock enemies to the ground." But trust me when I say the devs are underselling it. You see, when you hit an enemy with this revolver in rapid succession, you increase the shock chance. And by the third shot or so, you'll increase not only the knockdown chance, but the weapon's damage, allowing you to one-shot skull enemies outside of stealth. The unfortunate thing is we don't get this weapon until Act 3. So till then, I'd recommend using the highest tier non-iconic overture you can find and slapping an equalizer mod on it. Once you reach level 17, you'll find this revolver at weapon vendors across Night City and the Badlands. I picked mine up from the one in Rancho Coronado. Just know you might have to do a few time skips to get it to show up. For our katana, we want Scalpel. This is the perfect weapon to pair with the Sandevistan. It has a 30% shock chance, and when your Sandy's active, your crit chance goes up by 50% and all your attacks with it cause bleeding. It can be obtained as early as Act 2 by completing the Big in Japan quest, which you can start by going to the Afterlife and talking to this guy here. And for our final weapon slot, let's go with the Mancinella. This is the only stealth revolver in the game. It has a built-in silencer that gives you a stealth damage boost, allowing you to one-shot up to skull level enemies with ease. Headshots with this revolver also have a chance of applying poison, which is a bit overkill since you'll be eliminating almost everything with one shot anyway. It can be obtained by starting the Run This Town side job for Mr. Hands after completing the main story of Phantom Liberty. Before then, use La Chingona Dorada, one of two identical iconic pistols. Each headshot you land with these things increases burn chance and crit damage for a few seconds. Also, when you swap away and back to this weapon, you regain ammo, 1 round for each headshot you landed. So remember to do so to save bullets. Otherwise, just slap the best silencer and scope you have on this thing and enjoy those sweet stealth kills. These pistols can be obtained sometime after completing the hero side job in Act 2. By heading here to El Coyote Cojo in Haywood. Eventually, when you make it about halfway through Phantom Liberty, Alex will gift you her iconic pistol, Her Majesty. This thing is a spy's dream. It comes with a built-in silencer. It also has an iconic feature that eliminates weapon spread and guarantees headshot crits while optical camo is active. This is why we went with optical camo and picked up the Vanishing Act perk, which allows us to use just a bit of our charge while crouch sprinting, without exhausting it entirely and having to wait for the 50-second cooldown. Like Mancinella, you can one-shot up to skull level enemies with this thing in stealth, but unlike Mancinella, it does require a good bit of setup to get its damage online. So I'd recommend switching to Mancinella as soon as you get the chance. Now let's see how this build performs, shall we? You'll want to start combat by using Blood Pump to activate Adrenaline Rush and the Juggernaut perk to increase damage. Activate your Sandy and focus on taking out the weaker enemies, building up Archangel's damage. Then focus on the skull level enemies who, again, you should be able to one-shot after about 3 hits, as long as your shots are in quick succession. And for close quarters combat, switch to Scalpel and cut away. For boss battles, just activate Blood Pump, then your Sandevistan, and slice away with Scalpel, neutralizing the boss in seconds. So that, chooms, was the Grease Lightning build for Cyberpunk 2077. Give it a try for yourself. And if you enjoyed what you saw here today, please like, comment, and subscribe to MinMaxer's Paradise, the place for build guides for your favorite role-playing video games. Thanks for watching. Till next time.